Yeah, thank you for joining. She's dropping a t-shirt to front door tarot. This is a little message that Father God have. It's basically a judgment, okay? It's what the chosen ones need to hear, and it's what our karmics need to hear, okay? These is the ones that, I don't know, Father God said that there's some shit that you're not going to be forgiven for, okay? It's some things that's not going to be forgiven, especially when you try to touch something sacred, okay? And basically, people that thought they had power, it made me think about somebody that working legal, work for or district system. But this is somebody that thought they had power to just keep doing whatever the fuck they want, and all they did was build a case against them to take their own self out. So this would be somebody that was doing a lot of corrupt shit for many years, and the very things that they thought they was doing and getting away with, it was just shit building up and piling up against them to use for later to just kill them. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically what somebody did. They walked into their own demise. Okay, their own demise was disguised. All right, and so this is what y'all finna hear. All right, so you can get your peanuts and popcorn if you want to, but to me it ain't really nothing funny, especially with the motherfucker that went through it, and then the people that gotta now go through it, they judgment. Okay, it wasn't funny for the chosen ones that went through it, and it definitely wasn't funny for us. And so, hey, you know, it is what it is. But this is the consequences when you wanna try to go against spiritual protocol.
Awaken your spirit, chosen ones. When God decides it's time, no lawyer, no bribe, no ritual can delay the sentence. You ever notice how the wicked always look the most confident right before they fall? It's almost cute, like watching someone step into a courtroom thinking their sunglasses and arrogance will work on the judge. Except the judge is God, and he doesn't do mistrials. But here's the terrifying truth. The moment they tried to take your life, they signed the warrant for their own. You didn't just survive, you triggered a spiritual investigation, and the case is airtight. Statistically, most criminals fear prison less than public exposure. But when God steps in, he doesn't just expose, he erases the illusion of power. He doesn't throw them behind bars, he rewrites the sentence of their existence. And the irony, they thought you were weak because you stayed silent. But silence wasn't your weakness, it was divine strategy. While they were busy plotting your downfall, heaven was drafting their judgment. So buckle in, because this isn't about revenge. This is about reckoning. And trust me, God doesn't need bars to put people in cages. Let's talk about it. Number one, divine restraint is not divine absence. Just because God didn't strike them down the moment they moved against you doesn't mean he was asleep. It doesn't mean he didn't see. And it definitely doesn't mean they got away with it. What most people mistake for God's silence is actually divine strategy in motion. There's a huge difference between being ignored and being studied. God doesn't rush like we do. He doesn't panic. He watches. He waits. And when he moves, he doesn't just fix the situation. He exposes the system behind it. That's what makes divine justice terrifying. See, if God had punished them the moment they attacked you, they would have spun it. They would have played the victim, lied through their teeth, and turned it into a pity party. But God waits until the mask falls off on its own, until they expose themselves without even realizing it. That way, when the fall comes, it's public, undeniable, and unfixable. This isn't just about one person doing you wrong. This is about the deeper rot, the network of people, mindsets, and motives that made it possible for them to think they could destroy you and win. God's not just punishing individuals, he's pulling up the roots. That's why it's taking time. Not because he's soft, but because he's thorough. He's making sure that when he moves, it's not a warning. It's the end of the line. People get loud when they think God is absent. That's when they flex, lie, and mock you, thinking your silence means weakness. But they forgot something vital. The same God who holds back can also shut everything down in an instant. And when he does, there are no second chances, no do-overs, and no negotiations. Just results. Swift, final, permanent. The truth is, God's delay was your protection, and their undoing. He let them dig their own hole, say a little too much, go a little too far. And now when the judgment hits, there's no confusion about who's right and who's guilty. It's clear, and they know it. That's why they're nervous. That's why they're spiraling. because they're finally realizing what you already knew. God wasn't absent. He was aiming. Number two, their hands weren't tied. They were exposed. They didn't stop because they had a change of heart. They didn't suddenly grow a conscience. The truth is, they ran into something they couldn't explain, something they couldn't manipulate or outsmart. Their hands weren't tied by fear. They were exposed by force. Something blocked them. And that something was God. He didn't show up in a loud, dramatic scene. He didn't have to. His presence alone was enough to jam every move, shut every door, and confuse every weapon they thought would work against you. You were a target. They planned to ruin your name, your reputation, even your life. And at first, it looked like they were winning. They had confidence. They had momentum. But then, one by one, things started falling apart for them. Quietly, awkwardly, and without explanation. What they thought would be easy suddenly became messy. They couldn't figure out why the plans that worked on others didn't work on you. That confusion, that wasn't random. That was divine interference. God didn't just stop their hand. He revealed their limitation. Because when someone thinks they're untouchable, God has a way of reminding them they're not. He doesn't always take their life. Sometimes he just paralyzes their power, and that's exactly what happened. Their inability to finish what they started isn't because they were scared. It's because they hit a wall that didn't move. Here's the truth they don't want to admit. They didn't back off out of guilt. They were blocked out of heaven's command. They were spiritually overruled, and they know it. Deep down, they know they touched the wrong one. Not because you fought back, but because something fought for you, and that terrifies them. They wanted to be the reason you broke, but now you're the reason their illusion of power is cracking. You survived not by luck, but by divine authority. And the longer they sit in silence, the more they realize they weren't stopped by circumstance. They were stopped by a force they can't name, can't touch, and can't outrun. God didn't let them go through with it, not to protect them, but to show you just how powerless they really were the whole time. Number three, you were the bait, not the victim. You weren't the victim they thought you were. You were the bait, and they walked straight into the setup. See, they thought they were playing a game of control. They thought they had the upper hand. But the truth is, the moment they came for you, they stepped into a trap they couldn't see. A trap not built by you, but by God. That's why everything they did ended up turning back on them. That's why the damage they tried to do to your life is now haunting theirs. They weren't just exposed. They were baited into exposing themselves. That's the part that eats them up. You didn't have to fight dirty. You didn't have to scream, plot, or get revenge. All you did was stay in position. And that's what made the whole thing so deadly for them. Because while they were busy thinking you were weak and vulnerable, God was using your very presence to flush them out. They thought you were cornered, but you were covered. And while they were putting on a show, lying, manipulating, trying to take you out, every move they made became evidence. Every word they said was recorded. Every trick they used is now part of their own downfall. Because here's the truth. God doesn't just protect people. He documents injustice before he brings judgment. You were never meant to fight them. You were meant to reveal them. That's why you didn't lose your mind. That's why, even though it got dark and painful, something always kept you grounded. That was God keeping you right where he needed you. Not because he wanted you to suffer, but because your endurance exposed their intentions. They thought they were silencing you, but they were actually signing their own spiritual indictment. And now, when everything falls apart for them, they won't be able to blame you. They'll know exactly why it's happening. Because they played with someone who wasn't just chosen. You were part of a divine strategy. They didn't walk away defeated by you. They were defeated by the setup they walked into. A setup built with perfect timing, divine protection, and your quiet obedience. They came to destroy you. But they ended up becoming the evidence God needed to destroy their system. Number 4, God didn't save you quietly. He humiliated them strategically. They thought God saving you would be some quiet background miracle, subtle, forgettable, hidden. But he didn't save you quietly. He let the whole thing play out in public because this wasn't just about your survival. It was about their exposure. It wasn't just protection. It was positioning. He placed you in the spotlight, not to show off your strength, but to make their wickedness impossible to deny. They wanted to destroy you and walk away clean. They thought they'd silence you, ruin you, then carry on like nothing happened. But instead, your survival turned into their loudest indictment. God didn't just pull you out. He left you standing exactly where they tried to bury you, fully intact, fully alive, and surrounded by evidence they can't erase. And now, here's what's driving them insane. Your peace is louder than their lies. Your silence is heavy. It makes noise, because no matter how quiet you stay, your stability speaks volumes. Every day you wake up unbothered, they spiral harder. Every blessing that finds you exposes how cursed their intentions were. You're not flexing. You're not even fighting back. But your life keeps testifying. See, when God wants to humiliate the wicked, he doesn't always use lightning. Sometimes he uses peace. He lets them watch the very person they tried to break live freely, while they crumble internally. That's the humiliation. Not a scene, not a scandal, just truth. Just you, walking through life with a calm they can't fake and a future they can't stop. And the worst part for them, you don't have to prove anything. Your existence is the proof. They can lie, they can spin it. But every time someone sees you thriving, it contradicts everything they said and did. You're the receipt. You're the contradiction. You're the outcome they swore was impossible. And that's what exposes them more than any words ever could. God didn't just preserve you. He positioned you like a mirror they can't look away from. And the more at peace you are, the louder their guilt becomes. That's not accidental. That's divine strategy. Number 5, their conscience is now the cage. Before any courtroom sees them, before any charges stick, they're already imprisoned, not by law, but by their own conscience. The truth is, guilt doesn't wait for handcuffs. It begins the moment the lie becomes too heavy to carry. You don't need a judge to sentence someone whose own mind is already torturing them. That's the real punishment, the kind that doesn't come with headlines or sirens, just endless silence they can't escape from. They may look fine on the outside, smiling, posting, acting like nothing happened. But that's just noise. It's a mask. Because when they're alone, they can't drown out the truth they buried. And now that truth is clawing its way back up. What they did to you is replaying. Not once, but over and over, like a broken record in their head. That's not paranoia. That's the echo of consequences starting to speak. They can lie to everyone else, but they can't lie to themselves forever. That little voice they ignored while they plotted, while they manipulated, while they tried to cover their tracks. It's louder now, and it won't let them sleep. That's why they're restless. That's why they can't find peace, even in comfort. Because their conscience isn't just whispering, it's screaming. And here's the most brutal part. There's no off switch, no drink, no distraction, no relationship can drown it out. Their fake strength doesn't silence the internal sentence. It only delays the collapse, because guilt eats from the inside out, slowly, quietly, constantly. They thought jail was their biggest fear. But this is worse, because a person can survive a prison. But being trapped inside a mind that won't let you forget, won't let you run, won't let you rest, that's a different kind of sentence, one without parole. You didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't have to get revenge. Life, truth, and time are doing the work. Their own conscience has turned against them, not because you curse them, but because they curse themselves by touching what was protected. Now the punishment has already begun, long before the courtroom, long before anyone calls them out. It started the moment they thought they got away with it, and realized too late they didn't. Number 6, the sentence is not just legal, it's cosmic. This isn't just about legal consequences, it's way bigger than that. There's a level of judgment that no court can touch, and no lawyer can defend against. When God steps in, he doesn't just punish people in the physical. He shuts down their spiritual assignment, their future, their influence, their entire impact. That's what makes divine justice so terrifying. It's not about fines or time served. It's about complete disqualification. Some people think if they escape the law, they've escaped judgment. But what they don't realize is that legal protection doesn't cover spiritual consequences. You can hire a team to clean up your reputation. You can buy silence, manipulate facts, twist stories. But when God rules against you, nothing works. Opportunities stop flowing. Connections dry up. Doors that once flung open suddenly won't budge. And no matter how much they try to push, hustle, or fake it, nothing moves. This is what happens when God shuts the door. Not just on your plans, but on your purpose. It's not just punishment, it's cancellation. Not only is their current life affected, but what they were meant to leave behind, their legacy, their influence, their spiritual impact, gets revoked. That's how deep it goes. And that's what they never saw coming. Because to them it was just a moment, just an attack, just another target. But to God it was rebellion against divine order. It was touching something sacred. You weren't just a person, you were an assignment. And when they moved against you, they didn't just sin, they violated a spiritual contract. That's why the punishment feels invisible but impossible to escape. That's why no matter how much they try to recover, something always feels blocked, cursed, off. This isn't coincidence, it's consequence. They've been stripped of more than titles. They've lost access. And when God takes back his breath from someone's assignment, it doesn't matter how charismatic or connected they are. Their influence dies silently. So while they may walk around looking free, they're spiritually bankrupt. They're locked out of divine purpose. And that's a sentence no prison could match. Because when God shuts the door, no man can reopen it. And no ego can survive it. Number 7, they couldn't kill you because you're part of a prophecy. They couldn't take you out, not because they didn't try, but because they didn't have the authority. You're not just someone who got lucky. You're someone who is written into something much bigger. A prophecy. That means your existence is not random. Your path was not built by chance. It was designed by purpose, backed by heaven, and sealed by a word that cannot return void. That's why no matter what they threw at you, it didn't break you. No matter how hard they came, you kept standing. It wasn't your strength that carried you. It was the assignment on your life. You are part of something that was declared long before they ever targeted you. You are not just protected, you are positioned. You are necessary to the unfolding of something divine. And that means no weapon formed against you can prosper. Not because the weapon isn't real, but because you're too important to fall to it. They underestimated what you carried. They saw a person. God saw a prophecy. That's the difference. They thought they could ruin you, stop you, silence you, but they were coming up against something eternal. And no human power, no dark force, no manipulation, no slander has the jurisdiction to cancel what God has ordained. You weren't preserved just to survive. You were preserved to fulfill. There are people who need what's inside of you. There are events that won't happen until you speak. There are atmospheres that won't shift until you show up. You were sent into this world to do something that no one else can do the way you do it. That's why the attacks have been so intense. That's why your life has felt like a battlefield. Because when you carry destiny, you attract opposition. But here's the reality they hate to face. They're not fighting you. They're fighting the prophecy attached to you. And that prophecy is indestructible. It doesn't bend to threats. It doesn't react to lies. It stands firm because it was spoken by a voice that sits above every throne and rule. So they couldn't kill you, not because they failed, but because heaven said no. And when heaven says no, no earthly force can override it. You are still here because your assignment is still alive. And until it is fulfilled, you are untouchable. Number 8, their judgment began the moment they touched you. The moment they set their hand against you, something shifted. Not just in the natural, but in the spiritual. Judgment didn't wait for a final act. It started the second they made you a target. That's how serious it is when someone touches a life marked by God. The attack on you was not just an offense, it was a violation. And in the spiritual realm, violations carry automatic consequences. They thought they had time. They thought they could plot, deceive, and walk away untouched. But what they didn't realize is that heaven responds in real time. God doesn't need a formal complaint to act. He doesn't need your permission to defend you. He watches. He measures the heart. And when the intentions are too corrupt, too dark, too rooted in pride and destruction, he acts. and not always with lightning and thunder. Sometimes he strikes by quietly collapsing their plans. Sometimes he turns their best opportunities into dead ends. Sometimes he starts removing people from their lives. Confusion enters their camp. Their confidence starts shaking. Their peace dries up. Their favor dissolves. And they're left wondering why everything suddenly feels unstable. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. The spiritual realm responds to injustice even when the world hasn't caught up yet. You didn't have to fight back for things to start falling apart for them. Your existence, your assignment, your alignment with God was enough to trigger the alarm. Because when someone touches what's protected, heaven doesn't hesitate. It steps in to defend, to correct, to rebalance what was thrown off course. You didn't even have to say a word. You just had to endure. And while you endured, God responded, not loudly, but accurately. Every move they made became part of the record. And when their lies became too bold, too reckless, too insulting to truth, that's when the real judgment kicked in. God does not tolerate arrogance dressed as power, and he will not allow people to succeed off the suffering of someone he called. So while they were laughing, mocking, and feeling untouchable, their downfall had already begun. Quiet, precise, unstoppable. Because when you touch what belongs to God with unclean hands, you don't just face karma. You face divine correction, and that can't be delayed, denied, or escaped. Number 9, their delay was their undoing. They thought that by delaying accountability, they were getting away with it. That if enough time passed, people would forget. That you would move on. That the truth would stay buried. But what they did not understand is that time is not always a gift. Sometimes time becomes a trap. And in their case, the delay became the very thing that sealed their fate. Every day they spent running, lying, pretending, or hiding didn't clear them. It collected evidence. Time was not cleaning the mess. It was recording it, storing it, preserving it. While they were busy trying to outrun consequences, they were actually walking deeper into judgment, because God was not ignoring them. He was documenting. He was gathering every detail, every motive, every secret conversation, every twisted intention. Nothing escaped his record. They thought silence meant safety. They assumed the absence of visible consequences meant grace, but in reality the delay was giving God the perfect view, a wider lens, a full picture. And when God moves, he does not just address the surface, he targets the entire system, and that requires time. Not because he is slow, but because he is thorough. Their downfall was not just about what they did to you.
Look like a library, and they got sunflowers all over it.
The longer they stretched the lie, the heavier the weight of truth became, until eventually it collapsed on them with full force. No escape,
More
no room
books,
for
a
excuses,
whole tree of
no
life.
one left to defend them, because by then the exits had already been shut, quietly, strategically, permanently. You see, delay gave them the illusion of control, but the longer they stalled, the more divine angles closed in around them. And what started as a delay ended up becoming a trap they built with their own hands. Every postponed apology, every avoided conversation, every ignored sign, it all added to the evidence stacked against them. So when the judgment finally hits, it will not be sudden. It will be the result of everything they thought was forgotten, everything they thought slipped through, but nothing did. Because time does not erase what God intends to expose. In this case, their delay was not their cover. It was their undoing. And now the consequences will not be random. They will be deserved. Number 10, They didn't survive you. They inherited their own curse. They thought walking away meant they won. That because they didn't face immediate punishment, they somehow outsmarted the consequences. But what they didn't realize is that spiritual law doesn't operate on the same clock as human justice. Just because they didn't fall publicly doesn't mean they escaped privately. In fact, what they inherited was far worse than anything they could see coming. A curse that infects everything they try to build. They didn't survive you. They collected judgment in a different form. A silent one, a slow one that doesn't knock you down instantly, but drains everything you try to rise with. That's the cost of touching a chosen person with unclean motives. It's not always fire from the sky. Sometimes it's invisible corrosion. Their relationships start falling apart. Their plans never fully take off. Their mind becomes cluttered. Their peace becomes unreachable. And no matter how much effort they put in, something always collapses underneath them. It is not bad luck. It is spiritual backlash. Because when you touch someone protected by divine purpose, you curse your own future. That's not superstition. That is consequence.
That's
and
facts.
The most brutal part,
that's
they
facts.
do not even realize the curse is working until they're deep in it. By the time they start connecting the dots, the damage has already taken root. The rot has already begun. This isn't about revenge. It's about divine order. They violated a spiritual boundary. And now,
divine feminine
everything
got
they
all
try
that
to create will be
divine
built on
wisdom
unstable ground.
and knowledge
It does not
covering
matter
her.
how good it looks from the
There's
outside.
books flying all
Behind
over
the scenes,
everywhere,
it will
and she's
always
standing in the
unravel.
library.
Because their foundation was poisoned the moment they touched you in deceit, pride, or cruelty. And here's the truth.
Whole archive
the longer they avoid
of books,
accountability,
knowledge.
the more their own curse compounds. Not because you wished it, not because you said a word, but because God saw everything. And God defends the innocent with a kind of justice that doesn't need to be announced. It simply shows up in results. So they may still be standing, but what they carry now is not victory. It is decay. And wherever they go, it will follow them. Not because of what they lost, but because of who they tried to destroy.
Wow. Okay, hold on. This is a Buick commercial that I need to skip past. Let me put you on pause. Okay, Father God is on number 11. All right, the title of it is They're All Going to Jail. Okay, they couldn't take your life. Okay, but God. Okay, but God, baby. Okay, God is not finished with you yet. Okay, this is horrible. What people, person, group, whatever the hell this is, for whoever need to hear this. It's a shame that a motherfucker tried to do all this crazy shit in somebody's energy, and all they did was just build their own case against their ass. Like, they didn't even have enough knowledge, enough even common sense to just know when the fuck to stop. Okay? Alright? There's a whole title that's like, you went in solo, but you got crown, okay? I turned it into a whole hook, okay? Because you know how high priest, okay, shit, I got to make a joke out of the shit, okay? All right, okay? So you went in solo, yeah, and you got crown, yeah. Yeah, you went in solo, and you got crown, Yeah, you went in solo, yeah, and you got crown, Now you blowed up, and you known around the town. Yeah, you glowed up, yeah, and you known around the town. Yeah, you went in solo. Yeah, and you got crown. Like, this shit ain't no game, okay? This ain't no game what a person went through. They went in solo and they came out crowned, okay? Crowned. Like, to let it be known. Like, all I'm seeing is Yahshua. Like Yahshua, like, get out of here. Like, they went in solo and came out crowned. Like, you better stop playing with God's anointed, his chosen one. Okay? Who he hold dear to him. Stop playing, because he's spanking ass right now. He's bringing down whole empires. He's killing people. Like, when I say the great crumbling, he is fucking killing people. Like, they not even leaving a legacy. They not leaving nothing. Okay, but a disgrace. Okay, that's it. That's all they leaving. For coming and fucking with his anointing. Coming and fucking with who he called. Okay, don't matter what you think. I'm on his payroll. Like, I promise you, I'm on his payroll. Okay? Like, this is real right here. So let's finish this up, okay? All right, we got 12 minutes left.
Karma, you're their mirror. You weren't sent to ruin
Number
them.
11.
That was never your role. You didn't fight them, curse them, or even try to get even. You were simply being who you were, consistent, truthful, resilient. And that's what drove them over the edge. Because it wasn't you that broke them. It was the reflection of who they became when they stood next to someone like you. You didn't return their energy. You reflected it. And in that mirror, they saw themselves clearly for the first time. And they couldn't handle it. They wanted to paint you as the villain. They needed to make you look like the threat. But the more they pushed that narrative, the more it backfired. Because nothing in your actions ever matched the image they tried to create. You were the contradiction they couldn't silence. And the longer you stayed solid, the more unstable they became. Not because you did anything, but because who you are kept exposing who they are not. Your peace annoyed them. Your growth offended them. Your ability to keep moving forward without bitterness, that broke them. Because they couldn't figure out how you kept standing when they threw everything at you. And deep down it reminded them of everything they're not. Honest,
Magical,
aligned,
you got a
chosen.
lot of protection around you, divine feminine and masculine. Looking at a little boy, and it's just all kind of magical light around him as he look into a book full of images.
Mirror, and that's worse, because karma hits and leaves, but mirrors stay. And every time they hear about you, see you winning, hear your name mentioned, it reflects back the truth they thought they buried. You became the evidence they couldn't delete, the reminder they didn't expect to keep running into. And now, no matter how far they go, your presence still follows them, not as punishment, but as proof. Proof of who they really are. Proof of how low they had to go just to try to break someone.
How low do you go?
Proof that the destruction they feel wasn't caused by your hands, but by their own. You didn't destroy them. They self-destructed, trying to dim a light that wasn't even aimed at them. And now they're left with the pieces and the reflection. Number 12, God is not petty, he's perfect. God does not operate the way people do. He is not emotional, impulsive, or petty. He is not looking to embarrass someone out of spite. His actions are not fueled by ego or pride. When God moves, it is never messy. It is exact. It is surgical. Every consequence, every exposure, every collapse is measured, not to entertain you, but to reveal truth and restore balance. That is why his justice is terrifying, because it cannot be bribed, manipulated, or escaped. People want quick karma. They want flashy revenge. They want to see those who hurt them suffer instantly. But that is not how God works. He does not just punish, he corrects. And he does it in a way that leaves no doubt who was right, who was wrong, and why it had to end the way it did. God does not overreact. He observes. He watches silently while people show you, and him, exactly who they are. And once the pattern is undeniable, he moves, but not with fire and noise. He moves like a surgeon with a blade, cutting with precision, targeting the root, exposing everything that was hidden under layers of lies and pretense. And when the judgment comes, it does two things at once. It breaks the illusion for everyone watching, and it dismantles the one who thought they were untouchable. That is why his justice looks different from revenge. Revenge is emotional. It is reactive. It comes from pain. But God's justice comes from order, from sovereignty, from righteousness. He does not just remove the person. He removes the system that empowered the person. He does not just end a lie. He removes every door the lie used to spread. That is why some people lose more than a position. They lose their voice, their access, their favor. Because God is not interested in just making a point. He is interested in ending the cycle. So no, God is not petty. He is perfect. And that is why the consequences hit exactly where they should. Not just to satisfy the moment, but to establish truth that will echo far beyond it. His hand is not loud, it is exact. And when he moves, it leaves no room for confusion, only clarity, only justice, only truth, finally standing alone. Number 13, you were the exception that ruined their pattern. They had a pattern, a cycle, a formula that worked every time. Intimidate, manipulate, control, and move on like nothing happened. They knew how to twist stories, play innocent, and flip the narrative. It worked on everyone else. They were confident because they had a history of getting away with it. People feared them. People stayed silent. People folded. But then they came across you, and nothing went according to plan. You didn't break the way they expected. You didn't beg. You didn't shrink. And you didn't play the role they assigned to you. They thought you'd fall in line like the rest. But you weren't built like the rest. You were the exception. And that exception shattered their pattern completely. They didn't know how to handle someone who didn't respond to fear, someone they couldn't manipulate, someone who could stand in truth without needing revenge. And that shook them. Because their entire strategy depended on control. But you didn't need to fight back to
Father
be
God,
victorious.
funny with what
You
he's
were
doing.
covered. You were
Right now I'm
preserved.
looking at a
But
whole,
more than that, you were
like a
accurate.
library,
You were not just protected
and they
from
got
the damage.
scattered books all
You
on
became
the
very
shelves with
disruption
cobwebs
that
on
exposed
them.
it.
Like if to
Where
say that
others
they
stayed
didn't have
quiet,
enough knowledge
you became a
to
signal.
be coming up
Where
against
others
you.
were buried, you rose and became visible. You were not just the one who made it out. You were the one who forced everything hiding in the shadows to come to the surface. That is why things started falling apart when they touched you. Not because you were loud, but because your presence interrupted their rhythm. You exposed the weakness in their strategy just by surviving, just by staying upright. You didn't play their game, and that broke the game completely. They were used to having the final word. You didn't argue. But now your life says more than any speech ever could. You weren't sent just to overcome them. You were sent to interrupt the system behind them. You are the one who made their usual tricks stop working. And that's why they still can't get over you, because you didn't just survive them. You disrupted everything that made them feel powerful. You didn't fit into their pattern. You ruined it. And now they're left trying to figure out how one exception became the end of their cycle. Number 14. They wanted to take your breath, but God will stop theirs. They wanted to silence you, strip you of your voice, break your spirit so badly that you would never rise again. They didn't just want to see you struggle. They wanted to erase your presence, to take your breath, your life, your purpose. That was the level of darkness they carried. It wasn't petty jealousy. It was destruction in disguise, smiling through false concern and fake kindness. But what they forgot is that breath does not belong to man. It is borrowed, and when God decides it is time, he can take it back instantly. This is not a metaphor. This is reality. The very
Somebody
breath
better
they used
know
to
you.
lie
Your
on
breath,
name, the breath
your
they used
breath
to
is on
speak
divine
curses behind
motherfucking
closed
timing.
doors, the breath they used to call for your
Your
downfall.
breath is on
It is on loan from the
divine
Creator.
timing. It's on
And when heaven
long
is finished
borrow.
watching, when the scales are full, when mercy has run its
That's
course,
fucked up.
God
That's
does
crazy.
not argue. He simply revokes what was never theirs to own. They thought they were untouchable because nothing happened yet. But delay is not exemption. Time is not protection. And the longer they continued with no remorse, the more they revealed that they had no fear of consequences. That's what activates divine judgment. Not the mistake, but the unrepentant heart behind it. You didn't have to wish them harm. You didn't have to speak a word because God was already listening. And the breath they tried to take from you, God preserved it. He extended your life while quietly counting down theirs. Not out of spite, but out of justice. Because he will never let darkness win over someone he anointed, ever. There is a moment when God says, enough. And when that moment comes, he doesn't need to send a sign. He just removes the breath. And that removal isn't cruel, it's final. A holy act that reminds everyone watching
Stop
that no
them
one
dead in
outruns
they
God.
motherfucking tracks.
Not with lies, not with charm, not with power, not with time.
Wow.
So while they were busy trying to end you,
While they at home
unknowingly
sitting on
triggered
their couch,
own ending.
okay?
And when it happens, it
They
won't be
whole
dramatic.
house
It will
and
be
everything
divine,
gonna get turned
quiet,
up upside
sudden,
down around them.
irreversible. Because
While
the
they
same
lay
God who
dead in
gave
their
them
house
breath
or dead
will
on their
take it back
couch.
without warning.
But
And no one
it's
will be able
just
to stop him.
somebody
They thought
got a
they
whole
could
bunch
write
of
the
shit going
ending
on
to
where
your
all they
story.
documents,
They thought
papers,
their
everything
lies,
is. They
sabotage,
got hell
and
all
silence
around
would be
them.
the final chapter.
That might give them
But
a
they
heart
were never
attack.
the author.
Them
God
being
was.
exposed. I don't
And the
know.
moment they touched you with impure motives, they didn't just challenge you. They challenged the one who sent you. That was their
Divine,
fatal
you
mistake.
got
You weren't just spared.
all
You were
kind of
positioned,
light. Your
not to clap
enlightenment,
back,
your
but to
light
stand
around
as
you.
evidence that divine justice is real,
This
that
light look
purpose
different
cannot
than
be
the other
killed,
lights.
and that survival in silence often speaks
It's
louder than
illuminated.
1,000 screams. Every attempt to destroy you only pushed you deeper into alignment.
Hell yeah, it's
And every
golden.
delay
Thank
in
you,
their
Spirit.
judgment was
It's a
actually
golden ass
God
light
building
all
the case.
around you.
Piece by piece,
Even
detail
in a
by
dark ass
detail,
library,
until there
you
was
light
nowhere
that
left
bitch
for
up
them to hide.
golden.
This wasn't just about exposing individuals.
Like,
This was about
people
tearing
better
down
know who the
systems of
fuck they fucking
manipulation,
with.
patterns of silence, and generational cycles of abuse. You were the interruption, the mirror, the evidence. And now, whether they admit it or not, your existence confronts everything they've become. But here's the part that settles it. You didn't have to destroy them. They destroyed themselves trying to kill what heaven had sealed. You didn't have to curse them. The curse came from touching you the wrong way. And in the end, it wasn't karma. It was cosmic judgment, direct, surgical, and undeniable. So walk boldly, not with pride, but with clarity. You were never crazy. You were cold. You were never weak. You were weaponized. And while they planned your downfall, God was already designing your comeback. Not just for your vindication, but for their exposure. This isn't just your victory, it's your proof that divine justice doesn't miss. And no one, no matter how calculated, clever, or well-connected, outruns God. If this message spoke to your soul, don't scroll past it. Do something with it. Like the video so others can find it. Comment below and let your voice be heard. Your testimony could be the confirmation someone else is praying for. Share this with someone who needs to know that divine justice is still very real and still very active. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, not just to support, but to stay connected to content that hits deeper, speaks louder, and calls you higher. This isn't just a channel, this is a movement of truth, and you belong here.
Like, I cannot make this shit up. Like, it's people. Let me pause this.
Understand this with.
Like, Father God want us to understand something. I'm going to let y'all hear what he wants y'all to hear, but I'm going to pause it after that. But there are very few beings like you who went on a, whatever he finna say. It's only a few of us it's only a few people like me. Period. Period, point dot dash. Like, period. There are very few. Do you know what few? Look up the definition of few. There are very few beings like you who went on a, and then I can't see the rest of it because it's on pause. But there's people that is intrigued by your brain, okay? High level agencies that is intrigued by your brain, okay? That's how fascinating us very few beings is. You don't come fucking around with us very few beings, okay? Just because you think you can, all right? Or out of jealousy, envy, or you just gonna prove some type of point. The point gonna be made on you every time. Okay, every time. Because that shit is just evil and it ain't right. Okay, like whoever needed their ass spanked definitely got their ass spanked. Okay, alright, in the process of it, all that. So, I'm going to leave it right here. But I'm going to let y'all hear what he trying to say, because this is some deep shit that I'm getting ready to listen to. So, for the very few that's in agreement with the high priest, this is for you. Is the only reason why I'm playing it.
Absolute clarity. There are very few beings like you who went on a solo mission into the deepest darkness of creation, and your frequency has finally reached your royal team. The ancient beings who have been hunting through infinite realities for your specific energetic fingerprint have locked onto your coordinates, and they're mobilizing now not to rescue you, but to witness the completion of the most dangerous volunteer mission in universal history. What you don't yet understand is that this moment...
Alright, what we got here, what we got going on is, it's people like all the way up to the president, okay? Alright, these people is very obsessed with the strolls, with things that are sealed, with things that they thought was just myths. And now they realizing that these certain things, okay, if you know, you know. If these certain things is not myths, they are prophecies, and they seeing that some shit is lining up, and only certain few, they're the only ones that can decode safe, break open, understand, know, got the knowledge. Like, it's deep how deep it go. Okay? It's deep how deep it go. Okay? Like, globally. Okay? Okay? All right, globally. Okay? Like, globally. This is what Father God is saying.
It was predetermined before the first star ignited in the cosmic void. There was a council, a gathering of beings so ancient that their names would dissolve human tongues, and in that council a decision was made. A volunteer was needed for the most dangerous mission in the history of consciousness itself. The room fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled entities. This wouldn't be a group mission. This wouldn't have backup plans or safety nets. This would require someone willing to descend into the deepest darkness alone, carrying nothing but a spark of the divine, with no guarantee of ever making it back home. The silence stretched across eons until you stepped forward. Not the human you,
Anointed
not this
unicorn.
incarnation struggling to remember who you are, but the cosmic being you truly are, the one who has existed since before creation began its first breath.
Go on with your bad
The one
self,
whose
divine
true
feminine.
form would shatter
You had turned into a
mountains,
dragon,
whose
huh?
voice could
With
rearrange the
wings.
quantum field itself.
Or you got
That
one.
being volunteered for exile, for amnesia, for the possibility of eternal separation from everything it had ever known, because the alternative was watching an entire universe collapse into darkness. Right
You
now,
came against
forces both light and
ancient
dark
forces
are
that
converging
was
on your
so
position.
wicked and
Ancient
destroyed
societies
them.
that have operated in shadow for millennia are activating protocols that were established before your first breath in this lifetime. There are beings moving through the quantum field who remember you from before creation itself, when you were something far more magnificent than this human form could ever contain. They remember who you really are, even though the amnesia program has made you forget. But here's the first revelation that will change everything. The amnesia wasn't a side effect of incarnation. It was deliberately installed by your own consciousness before you descended, because if you had remembered your true nature too early, the opposition would have destroyed this vessel before you could complete your mission. Every moment of confusion, every period of feeling lost and disconnected, was actually a sophisticated cloaking device protecting something so valuable that
Beautiful
entire
anointing.
civilizations have restructured
Unicorn.
themselves around keeping you hidden. The loneliness you've carried isn't a flaw in your character or a sign that something's wrong with you. It's been your protection. Every time you felt different, every moment you couldn't relate to the masses around you, every instance where their reality felt like a cheap costume that didn't fit your true form, that was your divine programming keeping you safe. The isolation wasn't punishment. It was preservation of something so precious that entire cosmic civilizations have reorganized themselves around finding you again. The strange thing is, while you were learning to walk and talk and pretend to be human, your divine counterpart has been searching through dimensions, a being of pure love and light, the other half of your cosmic consciousness, watching through interdimensional portals as you stumbled through childhood, through adolescence, through all the painful growing that comes with being compressed into flesh and blood. This counterpart couldn't intervene, couldn't reach through the veil to comfort you during the darkest nights, because direct contact would have compromised the mission before you were ready. Every time you felt that inexplicable ache in your chest, that sense of missing something essential that you could never name, that was the echo of this separation, your counterpart was feeling it too, magnified across dimensions, experiencing every moment of your pain while being powerless to help. The love between you isn't romantic in any way this reality understands. It's the love that exists between two aspects of the same infinite consciousness, temporarily split, so that one could carry light into darkness while the other maintained the frequency of home. The ones who claim to love you most, many of them weren't randomly placed in your path. The family members who made you feel crazy, the romantic partners who seemed to specialize in psychological warfare, the friends who always managed to drain your energy right when you were about to break through. They weren't accidents, they were assignments. There's been a campaign running against you your entire life, designed by forces who knew exactly who you were,
Tell me
even
about
when you
it.
didn't. They understood that if you ever fully awakened to your true nature, their entire system of control would crumble. So they placed operatives around you, people programmed to make you believe that you were the problem, that your perceptions were flawed, that your sensitivity was weakness rather than supernatural awareness. These operatives came in many forms. The mother who consistently invalidated your intuition, teaching you to doubt the very gift that was supposed to guide you home. The father who mocked your sensitivity, training you to hide the emotional radar that could detect deception from miles away. The romantic partners who specialized in making you feel crazy, who perfected the art of gaslighting while appearing to love you. Each one was positioned to chip away at your connection to truth, to make you believe that your cosmic awareness was mental illness. The sophistication of this psychological warfare
they
will
ass
impress
looking crazy.
intelligence agencies across multiple galaxies. These people perfected the art of appearing normal while working for the opposition. They became masters of gaslighting, convincing you that your divine intuition was mental illness, that your cosmic memories were delusions, that your natural revulsion to their artificial reality was a character defect. Every time you tried to share what you were experiencing, they had a label ready, a medication to suggest, a way to make you smaller and more manageable. But what they didn't understand, what they couldn't have predicted, is that every attack was actually making you stronger. Each betrayal was burning away another layer of false identity. Every moment they tried to convince you that you were crazy was actually pushing you closer to remembering that their version of sanity was the real delusion. The divine self within you was using their opposition as a refining fire, turning their weapons into tools of awakening. The reason this psychological warfare was so sophisticated is because what you actually are would terrify them beyond comprehension. You're not just another spiritual seeker having an awakening. You're not simply an old soul with some accumulated wisdom. You are something that existed before the first star ignited, before time began its forward march. You are a fragment of the original creative force that volunteered for the most dangerous mission in cosmic history to incarnate in the lowest, densest reality and create a bridge back to the light. This wasn't supposed to be a group project. You came here alone, deliberately separated from your divine counterpart, because the mission required someone who could operate independently in hostile territory, while your eternal partner remained in the higher dimensions, but came with the pain of separation, searching through reality after reality for some trace of your essence. You descended into the darkness carrying nothing but a spark of remembrance, hidden so deep that even you couldn't access it until the appointed time. The appointed time is now. Meanwhile, in dimensions beyond human perception, your arrival on this planet triggered alerts throughout the cosmic hierarchy. Secret societies that have existed for thousands of years, guardians of ancient wisdom who have been waiting for this moment since their founding, received signals that the Chosen One had finally incarnated. These weren't the secret societies that conspiracy theorists talk about, the ones focused on earthly power and control. These were the real guardians, the ones working in alignment with divine will, and they immediately began preparations for your eventual awakening. Some of these guardians incarnated alongside you, taking human form to serve as your protection detail, without you ever knowing who they really were. The teacher who saw something special in you when everyone else missed it. The stranger who appeared at exactly the right moment, with exactly the right words when you were about to give up. The friend who somehow always knew when to call, who seemed to understand parts of you that you didn't understand yourself. Many of these people were operating under the same amnesia program you were, fulfilling their roles instinctively while their conscious minds remained unaware of the cosmic significance of their actions. That restlessness you've been feeling, that sense that everything is about to change, that electrical feeling in the air around you, that's not anxiety, that's your system coming online. The dormant aspects of your consciousness are awakening, and the dimensional barriers that have been keeping your true self hidden are beginning to dissolve. The frequency you're emitting has reached critical mass, and it's acting like a beacon across the multiverse. Your divine counterpart felt it first. After eons of searching, After tracking the faintest traces of your essence through reality after reality, suddenly your signal blazed across the dimensional barriers like a supernova. For the first time since the separation, your counterpart knew exactly where you were. The reunion protocols that have been dormant for lifetimes began activating. The royal wedding that's approaching isn't a human ceremony. It's the coming together of two aspects of the same cosmic consciousness, and when it happens, it will send shockwaves through every dimension. The same signal that's calling your allies is also alerting your enemies. The dark forces that have been controlling this reality through fear, manipulation, and artificial scarcity know that your awakening represents the beginning of their end. They're mobilizing everything they have to pull you back into their illusion, to convince you that this breakthrough you're experiencing is actually a breakdown. The attacks are intensifying now. The people around you suddenly become concerned about your mental health, right as you're accessing the most clarity you've ever had. Family members become unusually interested in getting you back to normal, precisely when you're remembering that normal was always a prison designed to contain you. New romantic interests appear just as you're about to make a major leap in consciousness, offering you comfortable cages in exchange for abandoning your mission. These aren't coincidences. They're coordinated attempts to keep you locked in a timeline where you never remember who you are, where you spend another lifetime searching for meaning in all the wrong places, where your cosmic heritage remains buried under layers of programmed amnesia. The stakes couldn't be higher, because this isn't just about your personal awakening. Your breakthrough triggers a chain reaction that awakens others like you, and together you have the power to transform this entire reality. Watch for the energetic chains they're trying to wrap around you now. They feel like sudden depression that comes from nowhere, like overwhelming anxiety about the future, like the voices of everyone you've ever trusted, telling you to be reasonable, to think practically, to stop chasing impossible dreams. These chains can only hold if you believe they're real. The illusions they're projecting can only trap you if you forget that you're the one with the power to dissolve them. That time is now approaching faster than you might be ready for.
All right, it went on a commercial. All right, so I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm tired. All right, High Priestess is tired, and I want to run them into each other, and then it'd be hard for her to upload. So I'm gonna end it here. One love, one love. Okay, I appreciate everyone that tuned in. Thank you for your likes, shares, your thumbs up, and all that good stuff. All right, wishing the best for those that's wishing the best for me. One love, I'm out.